If you're over 75 and trying to build muscle, the breakfast you trust the most may be the very reason your strength isn't coming back. I'm Dr. Alex Mitchell, and I want to tell you something that surprises a lot of older adults. 2 eggs in the morning might sound like a smart muscle-building meal. It sounds clean, it sounds simple, it sounds healthy. But for many seniors, it's nowhere near enough to switch the body from muscle breakdown into muscle rebuilding. And that's where one overlooked fruit changes the entire conversation. Not because it magically contains more protein than eggs, it doesn't. But because after 75, the real problem is no longer just how much protein is on your plate. The real problem is whether your aging body can actually use that meal to protect muscle, repair tissue, and keep you strong enough to stand up, climb stairs, and stay independent. And the fruit I'm talking about may do something eggs alone cannot. It may help your body hold on to muscle in 3 different ways at once. That fruit is guava. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Guava? A fruit? Better than eggs? That sounds backwards. Eggs are famous for protein. Fruit is supposed to be sugar and fiber. So how could this possibly make sense? Stay with me, because the answer explains why so many adults over 75 feel like they're eating healthy and still getting weaker every year. And before we go any further, I'd love to know this. What do you usually eat for breakfast right now? Eggs, oatmeal, toast, cereal, yogurt, fruit, or nothing at all? Let me know, because that one habit tells me a lot about how your muscles are aging. Here's the first thing most people never hear. Muscle loss after 75 is not just about getting older. It's about something called anabolic resistance. That means your muscles become stubborn. The same meal that would have helped you maintain muscle at 45 barely gets your attention at 75. The same walk that once kept you toned doesn't protect you the same way anymore. The same breakfast that made you feel full may not be giving your muscles enough raw material to rebuild. That's why so many older adults feel confused. They say, "Doctor, I eat eggs, I have protein. Why am I still losing strength in my legs? Why is it harder to carry groceries? Why do I feel shaky getting out of a chair?" Because your muscles are not grading you on whether you ate something healthy. They're responding to whether that meal crossed a certain threshold. And most senior breakfasts never get there. 1 egg gives you about 6 grams of protein. 2 eggs give you around 12. Even 3 eggs only give you about 18. For a younger adult, that may be decent. For someone over 75 trying to protect or rebuild muscle, it often falls short. Many experts now suggest older adults do better with roughly 25 to 30 grams of protein at a meal, sometimes more, depending on body size, health status, and whether exercise is involved. There's also the leucine issue, the amino acid signal that helps switch on muscle protein synthesis. Older muscles often need a stronger signal than younger ones. So right away, the problem is not that eggs are bad. The problem is that eggs alone are often too small a signal. And this is where the story gets interesting. Because the best muscle-building meal after 75 is not just about protein grams. It's about what helps you absorb, tolerate, and actually use the rest of the meal. That's where guava starts to look a lot more powerful than people realize. A cup of guava contains a surprising amount of protein for a fruit. It's one of the highest protein fruits you can eat. But that's not the main reason I'm bringing it up. The main reason is that guava is loaded with vitamin C, and vitamin C is deeply involved in the exact systems older adults struggle with most: connective tissue repair, collagen formation, antioxidant defense, and cellular energy support. That matters more than you think. Because when seniors say, "I want to build muscle," what they usually mean is, "I want to feel stronger." And strength is never just muscle fibers by themselves. It's muscle plus tendon. It's muscle plus balance. It's muscle plus the ability to recover. It's muscle plus enough energy to move again tomorrow. If the muscle is there, but the connective tissue is weak, movement hurts. If the protein is there, but the meal doesn't trigger enough repair, strength doesn't improve. If the calories are there, but inflammation and poor recovery are stealing your progress, you stay stuck. And this is why a fruit like guava can outperform eggs in one specific situation that matters a lot after 75. Not as a direct protein replacement, but as a muscle protection amplifier. Let me explain. Older adults often focus on the headline nutrient, protein. And that makes sense. Protein is essential. But muscle aging is not just a protein story. It's also a stress story. It's an inflammation story. It's a recovery story. It's a tissue quality story. Vitamin C has been linked with better muscle mass in older adults. And researchers believe one reason is that vitamin C helps support carnitine and collagen synthesis, while also helping reduce oxidative stress. In plain English, that means it may help your body produce energy more efficiently, support the tissues that hold movement together, and defend muscle from the wear and tear chemistry that rises with age. That's why I want you to think differently. Eggs are a building material. Guava is more like a support crew. And after 75, the support crew becomes just as important as the bricks. But guava has another advantage that almost nobody talks about. And for some seniors, this part is even more important than the protein conversation. Appetite. A lot of adults over 75 don't lose muscle because they refuse to eat protein. They lose muscle because they stop eating enough overall. They get full too fast. Meat feels heavy. Large meals feel exhausting. Chewing becomes harder. Digestion slows down. They start skipping breakfast or eating half a meal and calling it good. That creates a silent spiral. Less food leads to less protein. Less protein leads to less strength. Less strength leads to less activity. Less activity leads to even worse appetite and faster muscle loss. And by the time many families notice, the older adult hasn't just lost weight, they've lost reserve. They've lost the strength cushion that protects them from falls, illness, surgery, and hospitalization. Guava can help interrupt that pattern because it's flavorful, hydrating, easy to pair with other foods, and often easier to eat than another piece of meat or another dry egg-based meal. In other words, it helps build meals seniors will actually finish. And a meal you finish beats a perfect meal you avoid. That sentence alone can change somebody's life. Because the body does not build muscle from good intentions. It builds muscle from repeated, usable nutrition. Now here's where many people make the biggest mistake. They hear all this and think I'm telling them to replace eggs with fruit. I'm not. If you do that, you miss the entire point. The real advantage of guava is not that it should push eggs off the plate. The real advantage is that it can make a senior's protein strategy more complete, more tolerable, and more effective than eggs by themselves. That's the difference. And that difference is exactly why some older adults plateau for years, while others suddenly start looking stronger, walking faster, and getting out of chairs with less effort. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine breakfast number 1, 2 eggs and toast. That's common. It feels normal. It feels respectable. But from a muscle-building standpoint after 75, it's usually underpowered. The protein is modest. The leucine signal may be too low. There's no major vitamin C source. There may not be enough total food to push muscle repair very far. And if that breakfast is followed by a light lunch and a tiny dinner, the whole day becomes a maintenance at best plan, and often not even maintenance. Now imagine breakfast number 2. Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, chopped guava, a few nuts, and maybe 1 egg on the side if you enjoy it. Suddenly the protein jumps. The total meal becomes easier to finish. Vitamin C comes in strong. You get more texture, more flavor, more hydration, more fullness without heaviness. That kind of meal doesn't just sound healthier. For many older adults, it gives the body a better muscle message. And there's an even more powerful version. A smoothie made with high-protein yogurt or milk, whey or soy protein if needed, and guava can be a game changer for seniors who say, I just can't eat a big breakfast anymore. That's not weakness, that's biology. Appetite changes, dentures happen, medications change taste, illness lowers hunger. The smarter move is not to lecture yourself into eating like you're 40. The smarter move is to engineer a breakfast your 75-year-old body can actually use. That's why this fruit matters. It helps solve the compliance problem. And in medicine, the plan that gets followed is almost always better than the perfect plan that doesn't. Now I want to go even deeper, because the next layer explains why healthy eating so often fails older adults. Your muscles don't just need enough protein by the end of the day. They need the right distribution across the day. Many seniors eat very little protein in the morning, a moderate amount at lunch, and most of their protein at dinner. That pattern feels normal, but it leaves muscle-building opportunities unused. Older muscle often responds better when protein is spread across meals instead of dumped into one large dinner. In other words, you can't starve your muscles all day and expect chicken at 6 p.m. to fix everything. Breakfast matters more after 75 than most people realize. It sets the tone for energy, physical activity, appetite, and muscle signaling. If breakfast is too weak, the body starts the day behind. That's one reason I pay so much attention to what seniors eat in the first 3 hours after waking up. And this is exactly why guava can become such a strategic food. It makes breakfast easier to strengthen, not necessarily bigger, smarter. Because older adults don't need giant meals. They need meals that cross the line between, I ate something, and my body can rebuild from this. That line is where independence lives. And there's another hidden issue. A lot of seniors think muscle is built in the gym. It's not. It's built in recovery. The resistance exercise gives the body a reason to adapt. The meal gives it the materials. But the repair itself happens afterward. If that post-exercise meal is too small, too late, or too hard to tolerate, the body gets the stress without enough rebuilding. That's a terrible deal. It's like hiring workers and never delivering the lumber. This is why I tell older adults to stop asking, what food is healthiest, and start asking, what meal gives my muscles the clearest rebuilding signal? Sometimes that meal includes eggs. Sometimes it includes dairy. Sometimes it includes soy or whey. And often, the missing piece is not more steak or another egg. It's the fruit that improves the meal around the protein. That's why guava is so interesting. It brings protein, yes, but it also brings what eggs do not bring in meaningful amounts: a major vitamin C punch, fiber, plant compounds, and freshness that can make higher protein meals easier to enjoy consistently. And consistency is where the real wins happen. You do not rebuild muscle after 75 because you had one impressive breakfast on Tuesday. You rebuild muscle because the body gets a strong signal again and again and again. Now let's talk about the emotional side of this, because nobody says this out loud enough. A lot of adults over 75 are not just dealing with muscle loss. They're dealing with fear. Fear of falling. Fear of becoming dependent. Fear of losing the ability to live alone. Fear that weakness means the best years are behind them. Fear that once muscle is gone, it never comes back. That fear changes behavior. People move less to stay safe. They do less because they feel tired. They eat less because they're inactive. And the body reads all of it as a reason to downsize. That's why small nutrition upgrades matter more than they seem. They are not just food swaps. They are messages to the body. They say, we're still using this frame. We still need these legs. We still need these shoulders. We are not shutting this system down. I've seen older adults change more from improving breakfast and doing a few simple strength movements than from chasing fancy supplements they barely understand. And yes, let's talk about supplements for a moment. The muscle industry loves to make older people feel like the answer is hidden in a jar. Maybe a powder, maybe a peptide, maybe an expensive blend with dramatic promises. But in real life, what usually works is much less glamorous. Eat enough total protein. Spread it across the day. Get resistance exercise. Don't ignore recovery. Use foods that help you actually tolerate the plan. That's why a humble fruit can become more important than a trendy supplement. And if you're getting value from this, make sure you subscribe, because there are millions of older adults being told to accept weakness as normal when it absolutely is not. Now here comes the part that surprises people most. Guava may be better than eggs for some seniors, not because it wins a laboratory protein contest, but because it helps correct the exact reasons eggs fail in real life. Let me say that again. Eggs fail in real life when the portion is too small. Eggs fail when breakfast protein is too low. Eggs fail when appetite is weak. Eggs fail when the rest of the meal is missing. Eggs fail when connective tissue, inflammation, and recovery are ignored. Guava helps solve several of those problems at once. That's what makes it powerful. And if you're wondering whether I'm telling you to stop eating eggs, absolutely not. In fact, one of the best combinations for many older adults is eggs plus guava, not eggs versus guava. A 2-egg plate with Greek yogurt and guava makes a very different muscle signal than 2 eggs in toast. Same eggs, completely different result. This is where older adults take back control, not by abandoning familiar foods, by upgrading them. A lot of people think transformation at 75 has to be extreme. It doesn't. It has to be strategic. Now let me give you the 3 most common mistakes I see, because the third one is the one that quietly wipes out progress even in disciplined people. The first mistake is chasing protein foods while ignoring protein totals. Somebody eats 1 egg, a spoonful of peanut butter, and says, I had protein all day. Technically true. Functionally, not enough. Older adults need to be more intentional. Muscle does not respond much to token amounts. The second mistake is thinking fruit is automatically the enemy because it contains sugar. That's outdated thinking. Whole fruit is not the same as dessert. Whole fruit comes bundled with water, fiber, vitamins, and plant compounds. For many older adults, fruit makes higher quality eating easier, not worse. And in the case of guava, you're getting one of the rare fruits that actually contributes meaningful protein too. The third mistake is eating the right food at the wrong moment. If you do resistance work, even simple sit-to-stands, wall push-ups, or band exercises, the meal afterward matters. That is when the body is especially ready to use protein. Wait too long, eat too little, or skip the meal because you're not very hungry, and you waste part of the opportunity. That's why I love practical pairings. Guava with cottage cheese, guava with Greek yogurt, guava blended into a protein smoothie, guava next to eggs, not instead of them. Guava with a soy-based protein option if dairy doesn't work for you. These are senior-friendly upgrades. They are realistic. They are repeatable. And they don't require you to eat like a bodybuilder. There's also a very important point about chewing and fatigue. Some seniors don't need more nutrition advice. They need less friction. When chewing is tiring, when dry foods feel like work, when appetite is unpredictable, juicy fruit can make the entire meal more manageable. That may sound small, but it's not. A meal that goes down easily is a meal more likely to be finished. A finished meal is a stronger recovery signal. And repeated recovery signals are how older bodies regain function. Here's what I want you to remember if nothing else from this video sticks. After 75, the body becomes less forgiving. You can't assume healthy is enough. You can't assume protein is enough if the dose is too low. You can't assume one big dinner fixes a weak breakfast. And you can't assume muscle decline is inevitable if the real issue is that your daily signals are too small. That's why guava deserves attention. It breaks the false choice between nutrition and practicality. It brings protein to the table, but it also brings something even more valuable for older adults: leverage. It helps small meals do more. It helps protein meals feel lighter. It helps breakfast become therapeutic instead of routine. And that's a huge distinction. Now, I also want to be responsible here. If you have kidney disease, have been told to limit potassium, have diabetes that requires meal planning, or have digestive issues with certain fruits, you need to personalize this with your physician or dietitian. Good advice is always personal advice once real medical conditions enter the picture. But for many generally healthy older adults, the bigger danger is not eating too much guava. The bigger danger is drifting into chronic undereating while believing that a tiny, healthy breakfast is protecting muscle when it isn't. That drift is what steals independence. Not overnight, quietly. 1 week breakfast at a time, 1 skipped meal at a time, 1 year of low protein at a time. And then suddenly the stairs feel steeper, the laundry feels heavier, the balance feels worse. The hospital stay hits harder, recovery takes longer. The body you relied on starts negotiating with you. That's the future we are trying to prevent. And the good news is that the body can respond, even late in life. Older adults can gain strength. They can improve muscle quality. They can move better. They can recover function. But they need the right signal, delivered consistently. That signal is never just a food. It's food plus timing, food plus total protein, food plus movement, food plus recovery. And in that system, guava can be far more valuable than people expect. So if you want the simplest takeaway I can give you, here it is. Do not ask whether guava is stronger than eggs. Ask whether your current breakfast is strong enough to rebuild muscle after 75. If the answer is no, then guava may become one of the smartest upgrades you ever make. Because the winning strategy is not fruit alone. It's not eggs alone. It's a muscle-building meal your body can actually use. That might look like Greek yogurt with chopped guava and nuts. It might look like eggs with cottage cheese and sliced guava. It might look like a high-protein smoothie with guava after resistance exercise. Whatever version you choose, the principle stays the same. Cross the protein threshold. Support recovery. Make the meal enjoyable enough to repeat. Give the body a reason to keep muscle. That's how strength is preserved. That's how weakness is reversed. And that's how people in their late 70s, 80s, and even beyond stop fading and start rebuilding. I'm Dr. Alex Mitchell, and if you remember one line from today, let it be this. After 75, muscle loss is not just about eating more protein. It's about creating meals your body can still answer. And sometimes, the most powerful improvement is not the food you were told to trust. It's the missing food nobody told you to add.